All right, hi everybody. This is the inaugural episode of Game Chat, a podcast where we try and talk about old games that we like, just because we figure there's a bunch of you young kids out there that don't really know what gaming is all about.
Damn hipsters!
Yeah, you goddamn hipsters. So we want to educate you guys on what is good, where gaming came from, and maybe
Wait a minute,
point
are you really
about where it's
qualified
going.
for educating anyone?
That is beside the point. So, I am your weekly host, Ray. I'm the biggest gamer of the group here. Not the oldest gamer, but definitely the biggest gamer.
Are we talking about size here or nerd factor?
Again, nerd factor, I guess. So yeah, basically, we're just going to go around here and we're going to introduce ourselves and tell you the kind of gamer we are. I am basically just your everyday gamer. I prefer action, platformers, RPGs. I don't really care about first-person shooters because they're all overdone, but that's just me. And I love retro crap.
I'm Mark. I'm the cardboard slinging geek. I've played pretty much every CCG, LCG you want to think of under the sun, and have most of it living in my apartment. Old school video games are my go-to. I own a 360, and the only game I've ever actually played on it is Fallout, so that kind of sort of tells you where I kind of come from.
My name's Rob. I do a lot of board gaming, role-playing, tabletop. Used to do live action, but I realized how goofy I looked in those costumes. I now will still do some cardboard gaming, mainly living card games done by Fantasy Flight. I have a board game night every Wednesday night, and both of our other hosts are always invited, but one ever really shows up.
That's right. So, with this podcast, like I said, we are going to try and talk about various types of games. We will talk about video games, card games, board games, war games, whatever strikes our fancy that week, because, we're going to get bored talking about the same crap all the time. But for our first episode, we thought we'd sit and talk about what I think is about the granddaddy of all action or platforming games, and that is Super Mario Bros. 3. If you're not familiar with Super Mario Bros. 3, I don't know why you're listening to this. You really should be. It's, nigh on 20 years old at this point. You've had a chance to check it out. If you haven't, get to it now. If you're not familiar, it has Mario in it. You might have heard of him. He's only in every game ever.
It's the one that made
I think it has his brother, too.
Yeah, I think it's got that Luigi guy, which, at the time was a palette swap. So, just a little bit of history here if you're not familiar with Super Mario Bros. 3. It's released back on the NES, or the Nintendo Entertainment System, or the Famicom if you're Japanese, back in 1992. At the time, it was the biggest cartridge that they had ever made at, I think it was 32 kilobytes. So, just to give you an example, most games nowadays, say Mass Effect, for example, is about 7.5 gigs in memory, so you can basically fit 1 million Super Mario Bros. 3 into one Mass Effect. And they were bragging about how big the cartridge was at the time. As evidenced by the fact that, there's a 3 there were 2 games before it, but this is the one that really sort of got it right.
But it should have been called Mario Brothers 2.
Yes,
Dun,
this
dun,
is absolutely
dun.
right. What it was is with the original Super Mario Bros. 2, later released on the Super Nintendo as Super Mario The Lost Levels, Super Mario Bros. 2 was not released to the U.S. because they thought it was too difficult, that us American audiences, or North American audiences, couldn't handle the difficulty of Super Mario Bros. 2, and it would turn us off video gaming. There was a video game crash in the mid 80s, and nobody really wanted to play video games. Nintendo kind of fixed that, and they didn't want to turn people away with Super Mario Bros. 2. So instead they released Doki Doki Panic, which is a ridiculous game, and they just basically swapped in Mario characters. So technically, like Rob said, Mario Bros. 3 was actually only Mario Bros. 2 for us. But yeah, that notwithstanding, Super Mario Bros. 3 added in like an overworld map, which they hadn't done before. There was more of like a linear progression in the other games. You know, you beat one level, you go to the next level, unless you got the warp pipe.
There were 3.
There was 3, right? But welcome to Negative Zone.
And the game was never the same again.
Never, because nobody ever played those levels.
So many levels. I don't even know what level like 7 and 6 were. I think as soon as I was done with level 3,
yeah, I know.
I was done.
I barely remember. Yeah, I can't think about it. I think it went to like a bunch of like, well, the whole game was like black backgrounds, but I think you went to like some night area in one.
So I guess it wasn't even necessary to be the largest game cartridge because you put the fucking warp whistles in the game.
Yeah, and that's what they did with it.
Yeah, but at the same time, the game had such amazing development. Like the world creation, like every world, after even, you could warp whistle and just beat it. But then there was the curiosity because, I mean, you had like Giant World and Ice World and all these really cool level designs.
Yeah.
But then you had flying fucking raccoons.
Come on, you need the raccoon. Don't shit on the raccoon suit. That's the best. Yeah, basically Mario 3 took everything that the other 2 games did and just made it bigger and better. The worlds were more colorful. There was a theme to each world. You started off in Grassland. Now, mind you, the names for the worlds weren't really imaginative. You had Grassland, Desert Land, Waterland. Figure that one out. Giant Land, Pipe Land, Dark Land.
Is this the Japanese messing with us Americans, thinking that we'd just be too stupid to hear something creative?
There's a good chance of that.
You know, a little off topic here, but with the same gist, with thinking Americans are stupid. The lady who wrote the Harry Potter series, the first book is called The Philosopher's Stone. In the U.S., they call it the Sorcerer's Stone because they felt that U.S. children were too stupid to realize
figure out what a
Philosopher's Stone was.
Yeah.
So,
Plus
you know
it's hard to
what?
say.
I'm insulted by Mario Brothers naming it Water Land, Grassland, Mushroom Land.
Deal with it.
That just sounds like a recovering drug addict's worst nightmare.
Isn't that what Mario is?
That's what Mario's all about. It's just one big.
What's with this
trip.
flower? He's a fucking hippie. Flowers give him power, and then he's eating mushrooms.
No, look at that mustache. He's a gigolo.
A gigolo plumber?
Gigolo plumber.
He was Italian. That's why he has the mustache.
Anyway, stereotypes aside, we don't want to get sued yet. So.
Hey, my wife's half Italian. It's okay.
Oh, okay. There you go. Hey. So yeah. Anyway, Mario Brothers 3 tried to do everything that was bigger and better. The characters were bigger. They were more colorful. There was more pixels, which was I guess a selling point back in the early 90s. There was more power-ups, there was more levels, there was more secrets. I mean, I've been playing this game for 20 years, and I mean, I'm sure there's still some secrets that I haven't found in that game. They also increased the level of power-ups, or I shouldn't say the level of power-ups, more the number of power-ups. You went from just having the Starman and the Fire Flower and the mushrooms to having the raccoon suit, the hammer suit, the frog suit.
The frog suit was awesome.
The frog suit was awesome unless you were on land.
Yeah, that kind of sucked.
Then it was crap because you couldn't run.
Then there was the flying power for an entire level.
Oh yeah, the P-Wing.
The legendary P-Wing.
Which stands for power, not anything else.
I wasn't suggesting anything.
I didn't say you did, man. I'm just saying. I know the crew that we've got here. Then there was other things that actually had effect on the map as well, like the music box, which rewind a little bit here. Basically, on the overworld map, you could walk around, select your level on sort of a grid-based system, but there was also impediments on the world map that would stop you from getting to your other destinations. They would put Hammer Brothers in the way, which, if you're not familiar, are basically turtles that have a helmet and a hammer, and they throw them at you.
I always thought they were armadillo.
Yeah, sort of.
Because the turtles were the ones with the duck faces.
Yeah, no, they were all turtles. It's
not Goombas. They weren't turtles.
No, Goombas weren't turtles. Those are...
Koopa wasn't a turtle. He was a dragon.
No, man, he's the turtle king. He's a dragon turtle.
That makes no sense.
It's Japanese, dude.
Oh, okay, that explains it all. Seriously, Japan. What the fuck?
Right, great. We're gonna get sued by Miyamoto.
Nah.
right?
Just Nintendo.
Just Nintendo. Oh, that's right. No, they've got a license to print money anyway.
What are you talking about, Ray? We already know you've already sold 3/5 of your ass space to them for advertising. So
They'd have to shave off the hair first, but that's neither here nor there.
This is getting really gross now.
Yeah, that's okay.
that's what editing's for.
Editing, no. So that requires work. So anyway, they would put impediments on the map, and basically you would get sucked into these impediments, and you'd have to fix them. Or, you know, basically you beat the bad guys by jumping on their heads. So
or found other items to remove them.
And you would actually earn items to use in later levels by defeating these guys. And that's actually something that's continued on throughout the series. But you could get power-ups that would allow you to skip levels or put the Hammer Brothers to sleep, or sometimes there were bridges that would open and close. You could stop that from happening. So not only were there power-ups in the actual action levels themselves, but there was stuff on the overworld, which, again, was something that they didn't have in the previous games. Yeah, I don't know, Super Mario 3 to me is probably the most important game because it has the most stuff that's carried on. I mean, you look at Super Mario World.
It made the franchise. It set the bar for everything. I mean, graphically, when it came out, you compare it to any of its predecessors, it blew them out of the water. It actually had a sense of design and a sense of character. You could, see eyes. Like, they weren't just, one little white speck. I mean, everything
they weren't suggested. Yeah,
had a character. Actually, you could see things, and with the way video game graphics have progressed over the years, it became this is what direction gaming has gone. If it wasn't for games like this, we'd still be playing Pong.
Yeah.
What's wrong with Pong?
I don't know. Everything. Pong's not a game, dude. Pong is a distraction. That's all.
Like Jazz Ball.
Like Jazz Ball. Oh God.
I love Jazz Ball.
Oh boy.
You shut your mouth.
Hey, you know what? You're allowed to like Jazz Ball. I'm gonna play real games. Like Jazz Ball.
So,
yeah, basically, like the other games in the series, specifically if you look back to Mario Brothers 1, it was very rigid. I mean, you're also talking about a game that was made almost 8 years previous, 85. It was one of the first games released with the NES.
it came with the NES.
It came with the NES. It actually came packed in with...
Duck Hunt!
That's right, Duck Hunt. Fuck, I hate that dog.
Duck Hunt.
Duck Hunt.
In German, as they say.
Of course. It's harder to find a copy of the original Mario Brothers without Duck Hunt attached to it. And they actually did a couple that had Mario and Punch-Out, but those are pretty much impossible to find. But the original...
Talking about Mike Tyson's Punch-Out?
No, it became... Originally it was, but then they
That was
lost
Mike
the
Tyson's
licensing.
knockout, wasn't it?
No, it was Punch-Out, right?
But then when he went to jail?
Prior to that even, they actually lost the licensing, and it became Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream, who just so happens to look exactly like Mike Tyson. And actually, if your YouTube search foo is strong, you can actually find the original commercial that has Mike Tyson. But
We should post the link.
we should find it. Yeah, if I can find it, I'll put it up.
Is your Google foo good?
My Google foo is strong. But the original Mario was fairly rigid compared to Mario 3. For example, if you needed to change direction mid-jump in 1, you couldn't do so. You would take any forward momentum and carry that with you, and you couldn't really change direction. Whereas with 3, they changed that so you could do precision jumps, slow down your momentum, speed it up, change direction, aim your jump towards the Goomba or, towards the flying Koopa Troopa or whatever else. So the precision was much higher, and that allowed for much more imaginative level design because you were able to navigate a lot of the what's the word I'm looking for? Hazards, I guess. Level hazards. The challenges. Another thing, if you look back at Mario 1, a lot of the levels were very static. You had basically your background, and your only real challenge was jumping from from pipe to pipe, or from
That sounds
brick
like my
to brick.
high school years.
Yeah. But with Mario 3, they added in a lot of moving platforms, a lot of scrolling levels, which they had none of in Mario 1. So you would get a lot of levels of forced scrolling where even if you stood still, the screen moves you along and you have no choice but to follow along with the level and just try and keep up. And some of them got really ridiculous.
And some of the games, the level did that to you on purpose to give you more challenging later in 3.
Yeah.
Right? While in 1, you didn't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you still have the time clock.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is it adds in the time clock and the
Was there a point of a score ever? Like, the coins mattered, but what about the actual score? You got a time bonus for coming into level early or whatever? Did that ever really matter anywhere?
No.
Actually, I don't know about 1, but I know in 3, once you achieved 100,000 points, or maybe 1 million, I can't remember, there was a bunch of zeros, you would actually get 1 life, right? Like, whoop-de shit. I've got 9,000 coins in that time, but you would get that. I think it was also like every 25,000 points or something like that, it would give you a continue, right? So that was the way they worked that out. But I mean,
you didn't have unlimited continues?
No, you didn't have unlimited continues.
I did not know that.
No, you only had well, it was every 25,000 points. So I mean, if you can make it towards the end of the game, you've got about 15 continues, right? I can't think of a time that I ever ran out of continues, except for when I was like 6. I mean, at 6, you can't really make it past the first level, never mind all the way to World 8. Another thing is that it added in, well, it continued the ability to skip levels like in 1 and 2. 2 used warps, 1 used the pipes as a warp zone. It was basically 1 or 2 areas in the game that you could find. But in 3, they had warp whistles, and it would allow you to skip entire worlds. You could, like, every level was anywhere from 6 to about, I think, 15 small levels throughout the whole world, and then, or the whole land, I should say, and then you'd move on to the next land. So you could effectively skip the majority of the game. There was a trick. You could get I think the first warp whistle was in level 3.
Yep.
I think it was.
Yeah, level 3,
Level
where you had the secret. It was
No, the first one was in level 1.
World 1 level 3, because you had to duck behind the white block.
Yeah, you duck behind the white block and you run behind the end of the
screen
level.
and you jump and float up.
And then the other warp whistle was in the castle midway through the level, and basically it was like a mini boss fortress, right? You would have the whole idea of each level was that you would move through the levels, and then there would be a mini boss fortress that you'd have to clear.
Toadstool was like a secret agent man that was everywhere.
He was everywhere.
And he always had a stash of goodies for you.
Clones.
Yep, clones. Yeah, totally clones. And then you'd have to move through to the final level of the land, which would take place on a airship.
You had to fight one of Koopa's kids, and he had
lots of babies.
He had lots of babies.
He had some ugly
He didn't have any kids before this game, though. They were created specifically for it. So, yeah, basically, the other warp whistle would have been in the mini-boss cave, or fortress.
You had to get to basically the very end of the castle and
fly up and over, and then
it was
like a secret door.
And then the third whistle, you needed the hammer to break a rock.
In Desert Land.
Desert Land.
I only found that like 4 years ago.
And then you would fight the Hammer Brothers that were there, and then that's what they would drop, would be the warp whistle.
Yeah.
You never really needed more than 2. But I guess if you missed one, because you can't go back and do a level again if you miss one.
What it is that if you use the warp whistle, like say you get the first 2 warp whistles, if you use it in World 1, it'll warp you to the next set of levels. Like basically they were in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 and 8, right? No, it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4 through 7, and then 8 was on the last level.
Yes.
If you used the first warp whistle, it would get you to like 4 through 7, but if you used it again immediately, it would just warp you right back to 4 through 7, right?
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah,
no, you use the first one, it would bring you through to 1, 2, 3, unless you were in the second level.
That's right. That's what it was. Yeah. So you couldn't skip. Yeah, you couldn't skip right to 8.
Well, what I remember doing is after you got the second whistle, if you really wanted to go to level 8, and I just showed this to my daughter not so long ago, you got the whistle. It took you to the area where you could actually go to even if you were in World 1. It took you to the next level. Now, of course, this is playing Mario All-Stars.
Yeah,
on the
so there might have been something
So I don't know if
switched.
there was something switched.
Yeah.
But
I just remember a couple times using the 2 warp whistles in a row and still being stuck on that second row of
Well,
levels.
that's just because you're a retard.
Well,
Well,
no,
there's that.
if you beat
Excuse me, special needs. For the PC out there.
if you
Fascists! Sorry, that's not what this is about.
no politics. So, if you basically use the warp whistles, it allowed you to cheat through your way through the game. Which actually, when you were a kid, the big thing was being able to beat this game. Like, I beat the game in X number of hours. But then you realized,
you missed 90% of the game.
Right. And then that's where that strange thing that everybody seems to talk about now called replay value came from.
Yeah, exactly.
It was one of the first games that actually had replay value. I mean, you actually could go back and play the game without, cheating your way through it.
And then
actually have a way better experience.
And then also finding, all the secrets in every level. I mean, there's still some things that, like, it looks like a secret, but then you try it out and it doesn't really do anything, or you'll fly up. I can't remember. I think it's like World 6. You fly up to this one area, and there's a door. Like, it's way up in the sky, right? And it's on a row of ice bricks, and there's a, like the red door.
Yeah.
But you can't go into it. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't go anywhere.
How I was told about how I learned about the whistles the very first time, was from a movie, and I wish I could remember the name of it.
The Wizard?
Was it the Wizard? The kid who played
With the
video
power
games?
gloves and all that?
Did he play video games and he was like autistic?
Yeah, I think that's the Wizard.
And then they were like a game you never played before, and everybody thought it was unfair, and they brought out Mario Brothers 3, which apparently was brand new at the time. And this kid he knows the secret without even ever playing the game before.
Yeah.
And I watched him do that, and I was like, that is awesome. And then my stepdad works security, and he was installing a security alarm, and one of the kids at the house was playing the game, and they found some of the other whistles.
Yeah.
And so he brought those secrets to me.
Oh, nice.
So it was always fun learning the secrets, secondhand that way, too.
And actually...
or just reading Nintendo Power.
Yeah.
I was broke.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to have ramen noodles.
Nice. Delicacy.
My food was Chef Boy RD.
Wasn't he also your father? But...
I wish.
Fun fact, though, is that The Wizard actually came out prior to Super Mario Brothers 3 being released in the United States, or in North America. And that movie was actually used to show off, to market Super Mario Brothers 3. Right, it wasn't released to the public when that movie was in theaters, which goes to show the kind of movies people used to go see in the 80s. But then, so when it came out, like 91, 92, there was all this hype because I think it was Fred Savage was in that movie, right? Everybody saw Fred Savage playing it, and they needed this game, so it hyped sales. And I mean, plus it was freaking Mario. I mean, at that time, Mario was still more or less in his infancy, but he was already starting to get that sort of
pop culture.
He was already starting to get that penetration.
They
into
had
the
a
market,
cartoon, man.
Oh yeah, but that was later on. That was after
the,
Super Mario Brothers 3.
And then you had the two brothers who danced around like fools.
Man, Captain. Oh, what was his name? It was like Captain something or other. I
Should have
remember.
been Captain Howdy. The dude was scary.
Yeah. He was,
Sorry,
No.
Strange Land reference.
No, that show was messed up, man. They originally did the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, right, which had those two guys, like the live action element, which was terrifyingly creepy. I actually remember Macho Man Randy Savage showed up on that once as a guest star for like 30 seconds.
Rest in peace, Macho Man.
Yeah, I miss him.
He saved us from the apocalypse. You know that?
Many times. He also fought Spider-Man on Lost. But boom,
You know he had a rap album?
Yeah, I know. He was
Segway!
a true
Sorry.
Renaissance man. That guy. But see, you got me onto Macho Man Randy Savage. And now I forgot what we were talking about.
We were talking about Mario Brothers 3
Yeah.
and visitors on this silly show.
Oh yeah.
And that terrible movie.
Yeah, and then they did. And they
Movie
did
was a
Super
science
Mario
fiction masterpiece.
Super Show, or Super Mario World Super Show, which was based on Super Mario World. No matter how you slice it, though, that cartoon was terrible. I know that one episode actually had Milli Vanilli in it.
Wow.
I swear to God, it had Milli Vanilli in it. What it was is Wendy Koopa, right? Like the girl one, which was in 3. Which, for the show, they renamed them, I guess. I don't know why. They already had the copyright for the show, but they changed the name of all the Koopa kids. She was... she was like Cranky Koopa, or she was like Spoiled, or Baby Koopa. That's what her name was.
I was going to
She
say, what
called
is
her
this, the Spice Girls?
Right. And basically what she wanted for her birthday was Milli Vanilli and the White House. They, like, basically came back to the real world. They left the Mushroom Kingdom, went to the real world, and took the White House and sunk it. And then they captured Milli Vanilli so that they would sing at her birthday party. But in the original show, it was actually Milli Vanilli, but I mean, if anybody knows Milli Vanilli, they never actually sang. They were lip syncers. They had like 60 or 70-year-old men that lip synced their music for them. Anyway, in the re-release of the show on DVD, they didn't have Milli Vanilli. They couldn't get the rights for it, or they probably didn't want to get the rights for it. So it's just like some generic music with no vocals. So yeah, there you go. Fun fact about the show. So back to a couple of the other things that Super Mario 3 introduced was the Koopa Kids that we were just talking about. Prior to this, it was just Koopa or Bowser, right? Depending on... Originally, he was just King Koopa, and I think in 3 is where they finally started calling him Bowser.
Because he was king of the Koopas.
Well, it doesn't Bowser, like, in German mean boss?
Could be. I don't know. It might. I don't know. But who knows with German.
Or was it Bauer?
But... I think it might be Bauer, I think, but it doesn't matter. But they introduced the Koopa Kids that acted as the final boss for each level.
You're Bauer.
I am the Bauer. I'm the Bauer of this podcast. But for now, I will be impeached soon.
Mutiny!
So basically, as you progress through the level, you were always trying to get to the final fortress of each level, and it was the castle in each level. Had the king of each land being transformed into some animal, and Toad would beg you to change him back by getting the magic wand that each of the Koopa Kids had stolen. That was the backstory of this game.
That game teaches witchcraft!
So do you.
Pagan turtles. So anyway, you would have to fly or get onto the airship, and basically it was another one of those forced scrolling levels, but like the majority of them were easy, like the other 4 scrolling levels, but with the airship, it was a little bit more difficult, given that there was cannons just firing everywhere. You had bullet bills and cannons firing at you from all directions.
And you the guys who poke their head up and throw wrenches at you?
Rocky Wrench is what it was called.
I can't believe you actually remember that.
Dude, I've been playing this game for like 20-something years.
This is great, man.
Yeah, like, look who you're talking to.
And you
right?
just beat it last week, didn't you? Finally.
I am ashamed. Right? But...
Wait, for the first time ever, you just beat it?
No, I've beat it before.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry. Secret shame.
No pictures, no proof.
Yes. It didn't happen. Picture, it didn't happen. Right, but anyway, the Koopa Kid would each had their own airship in, I guess, Bowser's airship armada, and you would have to get through the level and then make it to the Koopa Kid at the end of each level. Basically, this game is where the rule of 3 developed. I don't know, if you've played any video games, you've probably seen that, like, every final boss has 3 forms, or, you know, you always need to hit the boss at least 3 times before he's stunned so you can do the final attack, or, you know, that sort of thing. This is where the rule of 3 came from. You had to hop on the Koopa's head 3 times, and then you would get back the magic wand, but each Koopa had their own special attacks. Let's see if I can actually rhyme off the Koopa Kids. We had Iggy, Lemmy, Morton, Wendy.
Didn't you just say that one?
There was Iggy, Lemmy, Morton, Wendy, Izzy, and then there was 2 more. Ludwig von Koopa, that's right, and he actually had hair like Beethoven. Damn, I can't remember the last one. Roy, that's what it was. Roy Koopa.
Of all the things to remember.
Of all the things. So you had those guys, and they each had their own personality, and I mean, so you had guys with shades. I'm pretty sure Izzy, like, clowned around on a bouncy ball. Ludwig had, you know, Beethoven hair. Wendy had these big, like, Marilyn Monroe lips and a pink bow in her, I'd say hair, but on her turtle skull. And each of them had their own attacks, and they got progressively harder. For example, Morton or Modtron, depending on which version of the instruction booklet you're reading, he would stomp around and actually stun you, and then hit you with the wand. So they all had their own innate attacks, and then they would also throw around the wand, and the wand would do things. Sometimes it would just shoot at you, little circles that you'd have to avoid. Wendy's, I remember specifically, would just bounce around the screen and stay there. So at one point, if you didn't defeat her quickly enough, you've got like 12 circles bouncing around the level that you'd have to try to avoid. And that was a pain. Oh, you guys have anything to add?
No.
Well, I mean, it was a good game. I mean, it was something I enjoyed when I was a youngster, and I enjoyed showing it to my daughter. I think she prefers the Nintendo Wii version because it's the newer console. It looks fun. It's easier to stay alive because you can get trapped in that bubble.
Oh yeah, New Super Mario Brothers Wii. Yeah.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to talk about before we sign off is just how many times Mario Brothers 3 has been redone or put out there again. As I said, it was originally done on the NES, right, back in 91, 92, 93, depending. Then it was re-released on the Super Nintendo, and I think like 94, like not even 2 years later, in the Super Mario All-Stars package, which had, depending on the version you got, it could have Super Mario World with it as well.
Mine does, yeah.
Oh, yours has got World? That's
Yeah.
good. That's actually a rarer one. The majority of them didn't have Super Mario World with it. But then it included Mario Brothers 1, 2, which was like the North American 2, then 3, and then also Super Mario The Lost Levels, which was the actual 2, the Japanese Super Mario 2, that actually had poison mushrooms that would kill you if you got them.
Oh, yes.
What a pain in the ass, man.
Poison mushrooms. Always a pain in the ass.
And I think that was all the games that were in it, but they also upgraded the graphics, bring it up into Super Mario 3, Super Nintendo graphics, which made the game look fantastic, and then they added, like 16-bit sound and all that stuff. So it was a total upgrade to the package, and played the same. So that was a lot of fun. Then I think they re-released it again on the Game Boy Advance.
Yep.
Much later, I think it was like 2002 to 2004, somewhere around there. Excuse me.
And that game held its value for some strange reason.
Mm-hmm.